Alrighty, y'all, I'm pleased to introduce Coach Lance Sewell from the University of Tennessee. He'll be speaking on developing an athlete for the game of baseball. Coach Sewell is a strength and conditioning coach at the University of Tennessee, where he has worked in the strength and conditioning profession for over 20 years. His dedication and passion has revolved around molding, developing athletes through consistent and thoughtful training. Coach Sewell's work is devoted to developing the complete athlete, physically, mentally, and spiritually, so that the individual will be self-disciplined, wise, resilient with the day-to-day life. Having experienced the thrill of being part of national championship teams as well as being part of losing teams, Coach Sewell uses those memories to fuel his passion of designing and implementing position along with individual-specific athletic development programs. Coach Sewell.
Well, it's a real pleasure to be here today. Just a couple of house cleaning things for me as I get out of here. And as you can see, some of my influences will be up on the presentation. I don't have any expectations for this, but I expect to do good, if that makes sense, and I'll elaborate on that later. But fornication, right? Fornication, for an occasion such as this, right? So that was my opener. I have a friend back in Austin that said, that's your great opening line. Anytime you're a best man or whatever, fornication. For an occasion such in this. So for an occasion such in this, when I've got to cultivate all this, I want to take a minute to encourage you. If you didn't attend Sandy Abney's presentation yesterday, go back and watch it online. When we're talking about the state of the union of the strength and conditioning profession, she's right on point. And if any of the board members are out here right now, get her back on the program for next year speaking by herself. It's a message that everybody needs to hear because it starts, like she said, the change starts with us. Okay, so now I'm on to the rest of my stuff. So I can see by the title, Developing an Athlete for the Game of Baseball. But to me, it's just not developing an athlete for the game of baseball. It stops with developing an athlete. And then we hand them over to the sports coach, whether it be in this case baseball, it could be in the case of softball, soccer, basketball. I believe our number one job, developing an athlete. Then the sport coach develops a better baseball player, a better softball player, a better football player, so forth and so on. So, contributors to my philosophies. Starts up there with the first man, Vern Gambetta. Very instrumental on me being on this stage. Had the wonderful opportunity to work for him for a year in the summer of 1995 as an intern at the Chicago White Sox. The principles he's taught me there are still into play today. Moving back on to Coach Stuckey and Coach Moffitt at the University of Tennessee. We lost Coach Stuckey way too early. I had the privileges when I got to the University of Tennessee after coming in and working for the Chicago White Sox that Coach Stuckey said, the baseball team's yours. I'm like, well, what do you mean? He said, you're writing the programs, but you're meeting with me on a weekly basis so we can go over the programs and I can see kind of where your thought process is. So that's where a lot of my other, I shouldn't say other, but my Olympic-based backgrounds or if my squatting, the percentages and intensities based off of that begins with Coach Stuckey. On those weekly meetings that I would have with him, he's like, okay, well, why are you doing this on the squat? Have you thought about doing this type of split squat or front squat? And then Coach Moffitt gives me the background for the Olympic development lifts from what would be known as the hatch system. You take it from there. The next up is Augie Garrido. I think if any of the so-called baseball people are out there, everybody knows who Coach Garrido is. The all-time winningest coach at any level for the game of baseball. I make the assertion if he was a football coach or a basketball coach, the country would know him the way Nick Saban is known or John Wooden is known. I also make the point you take him out of baseball, you put him in a football, he would have success. You put him in basketball, he would have success. Because at the end of the day, he was a teacher. And then after that is Ken Revisa. We talk about so much about mental toughness. Through Coach Garrido, I got to meet Ken Revisa. Some would say he's the founding father of the mental game. everything that I believe we do at Tennessee, or if it was at Texas, is mental development. Coach Revisa, Ken, has a great saying. He said it's about that 6 inches between your ears. Another sports psychologist, Michael Gervais, and if you guys are into the podcast, Finding Mastery, he's just not talking to sport coaches, but entertainers, CEOs. It's the pursuit of mastery. Find his, because he always talks about there's 3 things we can work on. There's 3 things that our athletes can work on. Our craft, right? So for us coaches, it's the craft of building a program. It's the craft of going in there yesterday for the speed acceleration. We can work on the craft. The other thing that he says that we work on is more what we do is the physical development of our body, right? So if we think about it, the craft, taking on topic here, baseball, they can go on, the player can work on their craft of baseball. Dry swings in the cages, dry toss, all that. They can work on their craft as physical development. That's where our line comes in. And then finally, his 3rd C for developing the craft is the mental development. And that's where Coach Revisa, Ken, has really had a big influence on me, is the mental development, everything. It's not, it's the old, how do you define mental toughness? I don't know, but I know it when I see it, right? The story that I love to tell is we had a kid in 2005, fortunate enough to be a member of that University of Texas team that won the national championship. The young man was not the picture. Nobody would say, oh, he's mentally tough. What happened to this kid? He dislocated his shoulder, didn't affect his fielding, but he couldn't swing anymore. Basically an out when he goes up there. So we're in the right to go to the championship series, playing Baylor. Chance Wheelis is the youngest man's name. He's leading off in the 9th. Texas and Baylor are tied. Don't remember the score. And I'm literally from here to the front row for this conversation that Coach Greedo and Chance had. Coach Greedo comes up. Chance, I'm going to pinch hit for you here. Coach, I don't know. This kid that they're bringing in to pitch, I grew up playing against him. I can hit him. He knows that I know that he knows that I know that I can hit him. I want the opportunity, Coach. Coach is like, you want the opportunity? Coach, I want the opportunity. You're in. So then Coach walks down, and he talks to the assistant coaches, and the assistant coaches are, what are you going to do, Coach? I'm leaving him in. And they're like, excuse me? He's hurt. He hasn't done anything for us at the plate. He said, hey, the kid wants the opportunity to be a hero. We talk so much about these kids about just being weak and not being competitors. This kid is stepping into the box. He may succeed, he may fail. I want to see what he's going to do. That's what gives you goosebumps just thinking about it right there. And then as Coach comes back and says, Chance, go give him. He says, Coach, I got one good swing in me. And I'm sitting there, I was like, all right. And then I don't remember the count. Then he gets in there. He's a lefty. So he's getting in there, right? He's getting in there, and he, boom. And you're like, oh, stay fair, stay fair, stay fair. Oh, foul. It was a home run, but it was foul. It was literally, how many of you guys have seen The Natural? Right? When Roy Hobbs hits the home run, and then it goes right there, and then the bat breaks. Luckily, it's metal, so the bat didn't break. And I'm thinking, like, that's his one good screen. So a swing. Crud. We're screwed. All right. Then the next pitch. What dreams are made of? Home run to send Texas into the championship series. To me, that's mental toughness. If you would have picked the kid out, you would have said, no, he's a mentally weak individual. So that's my 2 cents about mental toughness and the mental development with Coach Revisa. And then finally, Sparta Science. Here onto the scene in the last couple of years, right? They have been instrumental to me, and I will get into later in my program development, is what I'm taking from my principles that I've learned from Vern at the top, and now coming down here from Sparta Science at the bottom of how many have you seen the handout or the picture when Vern of force reduction to force production? Basically, that's Sparta on a load to explode to a drive. Being able to produce force into the ground, being able to convert that into an explosive power, and then finish with a drive. So it's allowed me to start programming differently. I know I listened when we had our practical stuff, and some of the young people that sat and talked about, well, this is my rationale. I've got my Olympic lifts first, and then I'm going to have a squat next because I want to do my nervous system is optimal at the beginning of the workout, and I want to train that first, right? Again, go back to Coach Stuckey and Coach Moffitt. That's how I was taught. Now, from looking at the data, the analysis on the Sparta Science, you know, if it shows I need a load, then I'm going to say, what's a great load exercise? Front squat. Then if I come back and I need an explode, then I might do a box jump, or I might do a hang snatch, or a high pull, something like that. So that's how Sparta Science has really helped me become a better coach. It's another tool in the toolbox, whether it's Dr. Wagner, or Phil Brady, or Sarah, or Michael. They are great people, and even though I'm not affiliated with them now at Tennessee, I can still take a little video off my phone, send it to Sarah or Michael, and say, hey, what do you guys think about this? I'm thinking he needs load, and they're wonderful about that. So that's why they've been a tremendous influence on my philosophy. All right, so now we're getting more into the things. What is your why? Again, I'll go back to sitting 2 days ago at our practical exams, and the questioners read off, could you explain your rationale for including your strength training exercises or your rationale for your conditioning exercises? Well, this is what we did at Tennessee under my mentor. Or this is what I did at Miami under my mentor. Or this is what the book tells us. To me, that's not your why. So my why I'm doing what I'm doing when I'm working with my student athletes, is development of an athlete is never ending. Did you hear that? Doesn't matter from the age we get them as a freshman, high school, to when they finish their pro career, if they're fortunate enough, they're always developing. It goes back to what Michael Gervais said. 3 things we can develop: craft, physical, mentally. You're always developing an athlete. So that's why I love the younger coaches that have these great ideas, because anybody that really knows, he knows I can put those blinders on, get my head down. Nope, we're going to do it this way. Why? Because it works. I know it works. But then when I get out of my comfort zone and think, no, we'll go from there. So developing of an athlete is never ending. That's why I want to have what I believe is going to be the best programs for my student athletes. And secondly, multiple fitness components and motor abilities make up the athlete to play the game of baseball, right? A motor ability, they got to be able to catch, they got to be able to throw, hopefully they can hit, right? And then they got to hopefully get their outs on time. I love the game of baseball. It's the hardest thing to do. Bear with me. Round ball, round bat, the objective, hit it square. How do you do that? Round ball, round bat, hit it square. I haven't figured out the physics of it, but that's what it is. So multiple fitness components: the ability to accelerate, to decelerate, lateral movement, agility, stuff like that. Power, mobility, flexibility. And then finally, 2 fundamentals. 2. That's all it boils down for me. 2 fundamentals that has nothing to do with the fitness components or an athleticism. Hard work and dedication. I will spend however long the NCAA allows me, or volunteering hours with a student athlete, if they show that they're very passionate and dedicated about getting better and they're willing to put in the work. And not just the term from baseball world is eyewash or false hustle. Turn me off real quick with false hustle and eyewash. Hey, you want to do this? Great. I'm going to be over here working with these guys. So there's where I answer my why, my rationale for my developing my programs. All right, coming right along. So my mission, right? You listen to the Texas Staff Dish Prevent. we've got to have a mission statement. So there's mine right there. Implement a practical athletic development program. Practical. What is practical for me might not be practical for you. So go from there. That is designed to enhance the on-field play of a baseball player. Because at the end of the day, it boils down to, are they getting better? Is their play? Didn't say anything about wins and losses, right? That's out of our control. I've been coaching over 20 years. My coaching record, 0 and 0. Coach Garrido's 1,000-something or whatever. I'm still 0 and 0. The program will be designed to develop the athletic qualities that will enhance speed, power, and agility to improve baseball performance while minimizing the potential for injury. All right? What we do too is we want to put our athletes in the best possible position to minimize an injury. That word potential pops up often. Coach Royal said, you know, that potential, that's a dirty word. Because potential will what gets you fired. Because it just means it hasn't happened. So I want to minimize the chances that an injury will pop up. And then if they do pop up, they are a little bit able to bounce back a little bit quicker. Okay, so my philosophy. Coaching is teaching, right? We hear so much nowadays, sports science this, nutrition that. Hey, I'll be the first to stand up and say, I'm not technical savvy. I'm not scientific savvy. That's why I go to other people about that stuff. I'm a teacher. At the end of the day, that's all we are. I come from a family of teachers. If you can't teach, you're not coaching. It's not about how many Instagrams, Twitter likes we get, Facebook posts, putting all that pretty fluffy stuff up. We're teachers. And we coach people, right? We don't coach a sport. It's the human factor. That's where we get to have the influence on the lives of everybody, that we won't know this generation, the next generation, generations on go. We coach people. That's the awesome privilege that we have right there. And then it's a comprehensive approach. What I like to say is when I'm meeting with a recruit, it's a term that I've stolen from Vern over the years, coach from the toenail to the fingernail, right? Think about it in these terms here, baseball, pitching, starts on the rubber, from the toes to release point at the fingertips, fingernails. From a batter standpoint, you get your base, you dig into the box, set your firm foundation, toenails. You take it, if you start to swing, when you come there, forearms extend all the way to the hands, to the grips, to the fingernails. So that's where we're going with the comprehensive approach. And then finally, purposely programming. Goes back to what's my why. You'll see as I go into my in-season stuff, that's when I'll divert. Purposely programming for an infielder, for a catcher, for an outfielder, for a starting pitcher, for a relief pitcher. It's all a little bit different in my book for there. My goals, right? Staying with, we got to have, what's your goals of the program? Well, I want to reduce my likelihood or the severity of injury and positive physiological adaptations to maximize performance. I don't want to spend a lot of time right there because we kind of know that stuff. My program principles, functional mobility and postural control. Because postural restoration is the big topic nowadays. Jesse Ackerman, who's now with the Atlanta Falcons, when we were all together at the University of Texas, we enhance what makes them unique, which is creating differences in the body, whether it's be for football. So then to me it comes back, are they functional in being able to do the mobility of the sport? Do they have the postural control? So that's where I'm looking at on my program right now. And then it goes back to train movements, right? I'm ground-based. The principle of periodization, I'll touch on that later. And then the principle of specificity, we all know that. And then finally, the principle of availability. That's just a fancy way for me to say injury prevention, right? I got to have them available. Doesn't do them any good if they're sitting on the bench with me cheerleading. right? How many people out here know that you're the CEO of the organization? Chief Encouragement Officer. That's also our role. The CEO, Chief Encouragement Officer. I think I stole that from John Gordon. So, you know, the principle of availability. All right, now let's go start getting into some more meat and potatoes. Planning to plan. Classical periodization. Classical periodization is more of from a linear approach, right? Where did we get that from back from the Eastern European, from the Soviet countries and stuff like that? This is your stepping stone. Well, what we also know is they were also more chemically enhanced. So does the classical periodization of a linear model work? To me, it's a periodization of having a plan. To where now if I go on to my yearly plan, that's where I'm following a classical model of my mesocycle is my whole year. I'm coming back. So whether or not, either if the team makes it to Omaha, makes it to the super regionals, the regionals, or is done after SEC play, I'm counting my 52 weeks. Week 1 is after the last week we finished, going all the way up into the season there. So that's where I'm passing with my mesocycle. And then I've got my, my macro, and then my meso is my different little individual blocks. And then in my micro, I go into my sessions and my modules. So that's where I say I'm following somewhat of a classical plan. Okay, and you see how I have my yearly blocks up here. My foundation blocks. I have a summer and a fall. I can do things different in the summer for those guys that are back in Knoxville or those guys that stayed in office in Austin versus what those guys that go out and play summer ball. So I'll have 2 different programs. And then I have a fall to where we'll come back in. And as I'm speaking, it's still, we have a hitter's plan and we have a pitcher's plan. So we'll go from there. And then the preparatory block. For me, that's at the end of this fall semester, that Christmas break that we're moving in, getting ready to come back to campus to begin our in-season practice up there. And then our competition block, and that's where I really bust up into infielder, outfielder, catchers, and then a starting pitcher and a relief pitcher. And then what we can even do off of the competition block is as the season goes, the red shirts start getting identified. So I can take, okay, well, this is where he's an infielder, but now he's redshirting this year, so I can kind of come back and skew and have more of an off-season type plan right there and go from there. So from there, now the fun part for me, the nuts and the bolts of it. What am I doing? Okay. I start every time with a warm-up. You can see we're out there on the fields before practice. My soft tissue manipulation, foam rolling. I'm not going to spend the time, allowable time. I think if you listen to everybody says, you know, we're in the sales business too, we're entrepreneurs. If I'm educating my student athlete, come in early. I know you have the time. Here's your foam roller, here's your lacrosse ball, here's your softball, here's an extra band. Where do we need to get a little bit extra rollout, soft tissue manipulation? So we're going to start back that, but that's on their own time, right? Volunteer time or Longhorn time is what we called it at Texas. Hurricane time is what we called it at Miami. And then the psychological goes back to Ken Revisa. Goes back to Vern saying, win the workout, preparing the mind. Because everything is the mental development. Every day, everything, every set, every rep, every exercise is part of our mental development. Being in the moment. The physiological, what's my objective? To get warm, right? To raise the body's blood or core temperature, to get blood flowing a little bit more, to work on more mobility and functional. Then it's going to vary in length, right? If I'm just going in, warming up for a strength training exercise, it's not going to be as long as what I'm getting prepared for a practice session or a speed development session or even just the conditioning. And then it's going to be active. They're going to move. They're going to be turned on. I'm going to challenge them to be engaged and to be in the moment because it goes back to this is a mental development session as well as a physical session. So they're active, and then it's going to be building progressively, starting slow, and then to the crescendo to where speed, we're ready to run. What I always tell them, we're gonna run like we stole something. You know, like when you're a little kid and you hear mama calling, you hear dad calling, whoop, I'm gone. Tommy on the 40 or on the 60 there. You know, when you hear your Lance Galen Sewell, they use the whole name. That's when I was like, man, I could have had those 40 times back then. And then joint mobility and stability enhancement with the rest of our exercises in there to get that stuff moving. Okay, now so this is the ritual. This is what I'm doing in every warm-up, right? My skipping to striding. Starting slow, getting the heart rate elevated, right? Starting on mobility, dorsiflexion of the ankle, moving up the chain, right? And then from there, just our regular striding. From starting with a slow jog to a stride it out. And then we got our leg swings, front to back, side to side. Get a little hamstring, hips, groin to abductors. Then we're going to go to a mini band, right? If we talk about the principle of availability earlier, the mini band routine focuses in on our smaller muscles of our hips and our groin, for it's kind of, if you'll see, it's the injury prevention aspect built in right there. Forward walks, backwards, side steps, karaoke, stuff like that. Then balance and stability. It's for, we call it for a pitcher's balance points. We're just sitting up here, and you can see I'm always already wobbling right there. So again, it's working on more for, think about our injury prevention aspect, our ankle joint, our knee joint, and our hip joint when we're on our balance. And then we'll just go into a shift and a balance. Again, raising the proprioceptive demand, so comes back to the principle of availability, working on my injury prevention aspect there. And then some med ball work. We'll go over here later, and I'll say, okay, I got a lumbar spine, I got my thoracic spine, and I got my shoulder complex, and I need to warm up. My medicine ball work, my rotations are going to hit for lumbar mobility, for thoracic mobility, and they're going to get my shoulders popped up right there. I want those. And then finally, a dynamic stretch, you know. Anything of movement, so you can see our boys right there are doing our Spider-Man crawls or Spider-Man to our hamstrings or inchworms, anything of that nature right there is what we're working on. Then this would be, if we're going in more to a speed workout or conditioning. So I'm doing an active stretch. My active stretch comes back from Aaron Mattis and the active stretch release, to where we're going to hit the hamstrings, we're going to hit the quads, we're going to hit the groin, and we're going to hit the glutes on that for our active stretch. And then we're going to do our hurdle mobility drills. And then from there, we're going to hit in and do some coordinated movements. That's just our side steppers, our karaokas, our power skips, stuff like that. And then we'll hit our mock drills, A skips, B skips, C skips. And I'm always like, well, why am I doing these A skips? They're not track people. To me, it's force application into the ground. How fast are we getting back down on the ground? That's a coaching point of mine, is I'm not worried about you picking it up, right? If we're working on strength in the weight room and applying force into the ground, then the natural reaction, the foot's going to pop up. So then how fast can we get back in? So that's why I'm including my mock drills and stuff like that. It's just for force application and getting the foot on the ground fast. And then now, so say if I'm just doing a strength training exercise, or strength training session, right? I don't have, say if we're taking the fall now, and it's an hour that I have, then we're doing a conditioning and speed in the afternoon. So in the morning, we're doing a strength training session. I want to make sure I hit my lumbar spine and work on my mobility there. There'll be times when you'll see we'll be on the ground doing our cat-cow type exercises, or if we're on the ground doing some thoracic spine where we're doing our jackknives or can openers, you may know them that, and then our shoulder complexes. But my I was about to say my end-all be-all for all my mobility for my upper body goes back to my med ball exercises. that, again, 20 years ago with Vern, our med ball rotation and twist. It takes hits on our lumbar area, hits on our thoracic area, our half chops, our lunge chops, our full chops, works on our shoulder complex to get those guys turned on, ready to lift. So that's how we're going to attack on our strength training there if we're just going on that for that. Now my foundation blocks, right? So I come in, what's my objective for my summer block? That's my foundation where I can build them if they're here. And even to me, where they're away playing ball at, I'm going truly in a strength building phase, right? We're going to, if we're pulling, we're going to pull heavy. If we're squatting, we're going to squat heavy. I don't have the luxury during the fall of the time because of fall ball and stuff like that to really build in a good phase to where I get strong. So it's upon onus for them to get strong. If their intentions, right? If your intentions are truly to do the work and to get strong, then your actions will build that back up, right? How we know what how our intentions truly are? By our actions. So then my fall block, I've got my pre-fall plan or pre-fall practice, and then my fall practice, and then my post-fall practice. And then moving into my program components, basically what am I going to do? From there, moving in my parameters comes from what's my athletic trainer going to allow me to do, what my head coach and what my position coaches are going to allow me to do. And then the exercise selection, and this is where for me, it's really gone back to what Sparta has, the education that I've gotten from them is choosing the exercises to kind of go up with the demands of the sport or the position. All right, so this is something that the hitters, and I don't know how well this is going to show up on the slideshow, how it's going to work and of a foundational block. So we're traditionally going in a 4-day, Monday, Tuesday, off on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If I'm doing from Coach Stuckey and Coach Moffitt, again, doing some type of an Olympic explosive movement first because I know my nervous system is ready to go and it's turned on as jazz, I'm going to do that first. From there, it's funny, a couple years ago down at the Texas Athletic Performance, they had a presentation, it was called On the Brick Method. And just things are stacked on. I was like, I'm doing the brick method. Didn't even know that because I'm going to do an explosive Olympic lift type first. There is often a debate, are you going to catch the bar or are you not going to catch the bar? To me, it's not about how much weight it's lifting. So if I have an athlete that's not comfortable with catching with the bar, if I see them not progressing, we're just going to do pulls, right? High pulls. I do believe there is some benefit from catching the bar on absorbing the blow and training it. So I want to catch the bar, but if I don't, that's not big of a deal right there. And then from there, you'll see on this one, it's a landmine rotation exercise. So now I'm getting more into my rotational aspect because the game of baseball is so much rotational involved, but I'm still doing my rotational exercises explosively. And then I'm going back to Coach Moffitt, and I'm pulling from the ground, right? Working on force into the ground, working on triple extension. So I'm going to pull from the ground, either with a straight bar or a trap bar, right? Trap bars are the vogue now. I still regularly just like to get on the Olympic bar and pull from there. That's the way I came into the game with Moffitt, and that's the way I'll go out. From there, then I'm going to do some type of now if we come down, I'm going to do some type of lower body, mainly posterior exercise. So I've got my lunge right here. And then from there, I'm going to come back. I can't even make it out. I've got my posterior chain specific in my barbell RDL. Again, I want to do a barbell versus dumbbell, stuff like that. After that, I'm coming on to some type of finishing exercises. I can't even make that out. Oh, my towel pull-ups, right? So I'm going to develop my lats, and you know, we've gotten away from doing our towel pull-ups for years. We're working on grip strength again there too. So I love doing my towel pull-ups. And then you can see as we're moving on to the second day, what our next exercises are is, so if I'm still taking the whole body approach, on day 2, now I'm going to take a more of a traditional front squat. I'm going to hit those first, because that, to me, allows me to warm up for my back squats, so then I can go ahead and develop like there. And then I'm going to do a back squat, but if I've done 2 feet first, then I'm going to do a single leg split back squat or some variation of a Bulgarian squat from there. Then I'm going to go in, this is the hitters we're talking, I'm doing a dumbbell bench press, right? It's hard to get the 18 to 22-year-old young man not doing some type of chest work. I mean, we look in the mirror, we see the development going on there. It's hard to see it from behind. So I want to take care of the chest work versus what they're going over there to the Joker gym, right, the rec center, and see what all the other guys are doing on there. So, yeah, exactly, doing the curls and stuff. And you got to look, we want them to look good in uniform, because that's half of it, but I'm more worried about how they, one of Coach Garrido's great saying is, you know, when he was 18, 20-year-old, he looked like a Greek god. And now as we age, he's like, now I just look like a dadgum Greek. And then we go back into day 3, which is just a variation for my day 1, where I'm going to do my Olympic lift first, some type of version off of that. And then I'm going to go back to some type of rotational aspect with my landmine, work with there. And then now it'll be more of a snatch emphasis on my pulls. So I'm going to go out wide. This is where I talk about Coach Stuckey having an influence on me. I'm like, Coach, I don't understand my intensity, my programming's, when do I need to go a little bit lighter? He said, well, what if you use your same percentages on your cleans, right? Or not your same percentages, but you use your same setup. Now you go snatch, and you have your estimated snatch max, because I'm not snatching them, but you have your estimated snatch, and that way it's lighter than what you were doing on your clean. So that was Coach Stuckey's influenced me. And if I do an incline, you know, I'll say, okay, this is an estimated incline max off of a bench press max. I will, for the guys that stay with me during the summer, we'll get on the barbell and we'll bench. We'll have some fun, you know. Again, it's talking about control the controllables. I know I can't control them not doing bench outside of it, so I'm going to do some bench during, and then those guys that stay with me, they're, hey, man, how come we don't barbell bench anymore? I'm like, because, dude, it's in season now. That's why. So we'll hit that. We'll go from our snatch pull, a step up. So if I did my lunge variation on Monday, now I'm doing a step variation, right? If we look at it, if we boil down to it, a lunge and a step up, when you're looking at them lunging or when you're looking at them step up, it's a squat. You got that? It's a squat for some. So we're doing some type of squatting, especially, you know, we're in a high step up. Starting position is the bottom for a squat, right? We come into our lunge. When we come out of our lunge, we're just driving out. So we're going to hit some type of squatting every day. And then now I'm going on to a good morning for my posterior chain. And then I'm going to finish up with my pull-ups again. But I'm on a thick bar now, so I can get a little bit more of forearm development. And then we just go back to my Friday, and it's a front squat and then a single leg front squat. This is where the Sparta influence comes in for more of the load. When we're holding the bar on the front, we get more of the load on the anterior chain to be able to help to boost force into the ground. To be able to absorb more on our deceleration right there. So that's when I said Sparta's been a big influence on they have. And then we got some half kneeling, single arm press. So I'm still going to get some chest work and some shoulder work, but I'm not going to do a dumbbell incline. But I'm still going to do some type of pressing right in there. From there, we've got our plate pullovers. So again, lat development. And then we finish with some shoulder-specific tubing exercises. And that's my introductory to my foundation blocks during the fall. What we've got popped up here now is just another example of moving on into, I believe, did the slide? Yeah, I did. Okay, I wanted to make sure the slide moved. It's just another example of how I'm coming into more of my preparatory block. So now you can see I'm setting up some power cleans with some box jumps, right? Still doing my explosive exercises first, doing a single leg back squat with some other supersetting, some other exercises there. Doing a barbell bent over row with a weighted push-up, going in there, kind of grouping things together. Doing my dumbbell farmer walks and doing my plate pinch, right? So this is more of an example of what we're doing during fall practice. I still want to train 3 days, but I got to condense because my time frame isn't. You know, we're getting from, I go from 60 minutes to Coach now has allowed me 40 minutes. So it's constantly moving. Keep them going, right? Working quick. And then you see right there for day 2, very similar because I've had 1 day off. But if I'm thinking more on a lower body emphasis, I'm going to front squat. But what am I supersetting that with? Still some type of an explosive exercise where I'm doing some box jumps. Now I've got my barbell RDLs where I'm supersetting with a towel pull-up. And then I got my single arm dumbbell bench press where you can see I'm going to superset that with med ball rotational put. So if I'm right here on the med ball, I'm telling them to get into a stance, and then I'm rotating through the hips, driving off the back leg, and then single arm putting against the wall, and then coming back right there. Movement starting from here, driving from the toenails, finishing through the fingernails right there on our rotational put. And then forearms, you know, do we have to do them? Yeah. Do we need to do them? Yeah. So we're going to do them. And they're always like, but you just tell me what to do. I said, I don't care what you do. I just want you doing them. And then I'm going to go around and see what they're doing. And if they're just kind of doing some fluff or not really the intensity, I said, okay, hey, let's try this. Because I want the ownership for them to have a little bit of say in what they're doing. So, hey, choose your exercises. Here's some suggestions, but go from there. And then you see on the day 3, you know, we'd come back with some type of clean emphasis, which right there, I am power cleaning. You know, if they are comfortable catching it, I'm catching. Supersetting with some type of long jump. Plyometric explosive, but what the Sparta people found, more of a drive. So putting a explosive movement for acceleration, explode, with a drive. Grouping those 2 exercises together, and then finishing up again with a single leg front squat, more for our load there. Single arm dumbbell bent over row, everybody knows that. And then you got our half kneeling single arm press again, and then we go to our single arm dumbbell farmer's walk for our forearm development right there. Now our pitchers. This is where we do things a lot different, I believe, to where we get more specific of what, you know, a hitter you can go very hybrid to if I'm taking a model off of football, you know, because we want them, I think, if we think the body development is of a DB or a wide out, something like that. Sometimes maybe a running back of football or stuff from that. What I'm going to start mainly my legs, and I'm going to do explosive movements with them, but I'm not cleaning, I'm not snatching. I will pull. I will pull from the ground with a clean grip or a snatch grip or a trap bar right there. I will do dumbbell high pulls, and I will even do dumbbell snatches with them. It comes back to me, it's speed, right? It's so hard. I get wrapped up in, but I don't know the programming, how much they should be lifting. I'm supposed to tell them how much they're lifting, right? Then it comes back to the coaching eye. We're seeing the movement. We're seeing the movement. And then we're like, I believe you can go heavier because I know you can go faster. And then that's how we're challenging, and that's how we're adapting and go from there. Also, I can just remember, they're pitching overhead, right? Why aren't we training overhead? I don't understand that, right? It's about trunk tilt for a release point versus even if we're doing for a pitcher a curl to the press, it's still not straight overhead. For me, it's trunk tilt. I can go down a rabbit hole here and say if we're working on balance, right, with our curl to a press, then we're not loading externally a lot, 30s, 40s, 50s, right? What do we know? The muscle has to adapt to that training stimuli, right? And if we're balancing and it's still, wow, 20, this is causing me to adapt, then I'm still growing. But it's not from the standpoint of pushing 40, 50, 60 heavy over your weight. And then it comes back to balancing on a towel, closing your eyes and balancing. It's always the proprioceptive demand of the exercise. Going on from there, for our landmine, we'll hit something on that. So now it's more specific into a rotational aspect, a clean pull, a lunge, a barbell RDL, and a towel pull up again right there. As I'm watching my watch, I'm slowing down, I'm talking. It's like I was telling everybody I can get nervous, but I can talk for hours. You know, on a grease board, I love doing that. So I'm going to start speeding it up. If I apologize. But hey, we're coaches, man. It's what we do, right? We're at the end of the seminar here. If you got to leave, you got to leave. If you got any questions, we'll stay and talk. And then my preparatory rock is, what's my objective? Okay, so if I said I'm moving in to the Christmas break, I want more movement, specific exercises. So my programming components is more, say if I'm doing a good morning into a lunge to a step up, stuff like that. Goes back to my parameters, checking in with my ATC, checking in with my head coach, checking in with my position coaches, right? And then my exercise selections. To me, it's more movement specific at that time. If I'm talking on a hitter, you know, Fran Bosch's new book, Muscle Coordination, if I'm talking about a hang clean into a lunge, right? One-legged hang clean into a lunge, into a step up. That's where I'm putting those type exercises in now, right? And that's when I said I love my relationship with the folks at Sparta, because I can send Sarah and Michael those videos, and they're like, looks good, but why? Is it fluff, or is there a purpose to that? Oops. And then we got our extra, well, that was what we were talking about, our exercise selections. Okay, so, So going on to the hitters, in the essence of time, you know, if anybody wants to email me, or you download the complete slideshow versus what's the handout that I didn't include in there, go from there. I'll just real fast go through these. You know, we'll do our hitters still during that block, the Christmas vacation. I'm doing 4 days, and then I'm putting in a little bit more conditioning from there. Then same with the pitchers, you know, you can see right there is I'm doing my trap bar to a jump shrug. If they don't have a trap bar where they're training at, well, it's back to a clean, right? A clean jump shrug. Moving on from there. Posterior lunge. My definition of posterior lunge is just right here and then in, right? You'll see I'll do a drop step lunge. Will be here and then just your lateral lunge. So I'm a big fan of my lunge complex because that's where I'm hitting my groin. I'll even do a lunge and reach, right? And I'll get the RDLs and the back hypers out of there because as I'm lunging and reaching, especially with my pitchers, right, my follow through, I'm out here. As I'm coming back, think about it, my RDL, my low back, my glutes, my heart, hamstrings, that's my lunge and reach right there. Moving right along. Okay, my competition block, going into the end season. Okay, what's my objective here? We've got to return to campus and then our end season. Now they're here to be baseball players, so now it's their time. I take a step back and I really put on my CEO hat during this time of year, but I still want to train. Going back to Coach Stuckey being a big influence on me. What's your in-season program, Lance? I just want to maintain. Stop. I don't believe in maintaining. Now, are you going to get stronger? No, but you're still progressively getting better because you're fatigued. And if we're talking on a squat, if my squat max is 405, am I going to be able to 1-rep max that during the season? But the body still doesn't know if it's 405 or 315. All this is like, I got challenged. I got to complete the exercise. So maintaining is not, I don't want to maintain. Maintaining is staying there. I want to get better. I want to be better at the end of the season than when I was at starting. Why do I want to maintain? So that's what I'm thinking about on my parameters during there. And then it goes back to the same exercise selections that we've talked there. Okay? Now here's where it gets a little bit different. Holy cow, I only got 5 minutes. As you can see, is on if it's a 7-day program, right? Day 1 is usually the Monday after we play on a weekend series. I've got in here their lower body rollout and their upper body rollout. Then we've got, like I said, you can see my mini band warm up on there, and then you can see my dynamic flexibility, and then we're moving into some movement specifics with a good morning to a forward lunge. Supersetting that with a little Spider-Man, all right? And then the other stuff, and then a day 2, Tuesday, is usually a game day. So I come in there, it's like, hey, let's hit some mini band work. Indie, right? Indie mobility and flexibility, individual mobility and flexibility work right there. And day 3 is usually another, total body lift right there. And then it comes back to day 4. My mobility and flexibility is my main emphasis. Day 5 is an optional day for their 3rd day of strength training. And then we've got our weekend games 1, 2, and 3. Same concepts, again, on the outfielders is day 1, I'm programmed in a lower body rollout and an upper body rollout. Then we're going to do an active warm-up, and I'm hitting my mini bands again. Same concept on day 3 with them, same concept on day 2. You can start to see now the exercises are a little bit different to where if I'm doing a single leg front balancing squat, supersetting that with a box jump or so forth on some there. That's where the Sparta influence comes on me, knowing the infielders are more lateral development and they need more of a load. The outfielders are more of a drive and they have more, that's back up. The infielders are more lateral, so they need more posterior chain. The outfielders are more drive, so they need more of a load production right there. And then the hybrid off that model is the catchers, because there's so much lateral movement from there, but then they also have the ability to drive and pop out of there. So that's where I kind of, not having the software program to scan a catcher, it's like, well, this is what I believe would work beneficial for them. And then you can see the catchers right there will be a little bit different on the exercises. And then that's where I break it up with my starters. Your starters will have a day 1, a day 2, a day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7, which is back to game day right there. Again, I apologize for speed reading through this now, but it'll be on the, you can download this. And if you ever want to call, we'll talk. If you ever see me, we'll talk and do that. That's what I really love. Again, more of the starter emphasis. And then my relievers emphasis, where it's just 2 total bodies, usually that Monday. And it's an off day, but these guys are very good of coming in on their own. I have to say, hey, remember, this is a voluntary lift. You guys don't have to be here. But they're so good, it's like, well, we don't have practice, we don't have a game, so we go from there. And then, you go back on to day 4, day 5, day 6, and day 7 is usually a weekend series. Hey, that's all, right? If we've got time, I'll take questions. But before I go back to what all you're going to do, uniquely sets, reps, exercises, that's what sets you apart. And it's not, at the end of the day, it's not about that. It's about getting with the student athlete and working with them. It's always student athlete first. Texas was just up here and talking about the branding. And man, I love Donnie, I love Sandy. It ain't about the brand. It's about the student athlete, right? It's about the student athlete first and last. Any questions? Yes, sir. Then we're just starting walking rotations, and then when we go into the weight room or even on the field, then I'll do more throwing and stuff like that. Yeah. Again, my med ball stuff, I don't know if I have an original thought It's just all from Vern. And it was, to me, it was really backed up when I was out there in California at Sparta, and they were talking about, you know, with the rotational athlete, with the pitcher having to get that whip, and I'm like, dadgum, that's what Vern told us 20 years ago with our med ball, so it really emphasized back then. So hopefully I answered your question. Anything else? No, unfortunately not. It's time frame. That's when I come back to my parameters. What is my coach going to allow me to do? In an ideal situation, I would still like to do that. There have been times when at Texas the head coach has allowed me an extra 10 minutes as part of my warm-up, and I would do that. But then he'd come back the next year, Coach, you're going to give me the extra time? Nah, I didn't work last year. Hell no. I'm like, nah. So that's just, you know, we serve at the pleasure of our head coaches, right? Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I do. Because what we'll do, missing this weekend series against Kentucky, but my intern went out, and that's what I love. It gets them a chance to do the program, right, and take ownership of the program. So I do travel with the team. I think my main beneficial for the traveling with the program is, again, starting with the starting pitcher to prepare them for the next start, right? Because it's all about the man on the bump with that little white ball. I go back to what I said earlier. Round ball, round bat, hit it square. Pitcher getting the release point, how's he going to manipulate? So yes, I will travel. Anything else? Going once, going twice. So thank you very much. I've enjoyed it. Again, hopefully I had some peaks, I had some valleys in this presentation, but thank you. I love doing this, but just like our athletes, that performance anxiety, you know, and I'm channeling Ken Ravizzi, on the third, like, focus on your breath, right? And then the other thing he'll say is no pooping on the mound or no pooping in the box. Get out of the box if you start, you know, the voices start, so that's why I kind of take my time up here, and that's why I go slow is, you know, no pooping on no pooping on the podium, right? That wouldn't be good. So thank you very much.